So May 2005, very important year for Star Wars fans. The release of the final prequel from George Lucas, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, which happens to be on a personal level one of my favorite movies of all time. And for so many different reasons, huge fan of the prequels, huge fan of that movie specifically. But there was it was a big year. It was a big year. So this video, this little talk here, is going to be once again speaking about how the Star Wars expanded universe, Star Wars Legends at that time, really enhances the films, specifically Revenge of the Sith. So going back a little bit, we had to wait 3 years in between prequels. From episode 1 to episode 2, 3 years. From episode 2 to episode 3 in May 2005, 3 years, which seemed like forever because we really wanted to see what happened, how Anakin fell to the dark side. We wanted to see that duel of between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And we got a few surprises watching that movie. For example, the Yoda and Palpatine battle, seeing that on the big screen, unexpected, and how it was intercut with the music, John Williams, intercut with the Obi-Wan and Anakin. That was completely unexpected, and I love the duel between Yoda and Palpatine. But this video, once again, is going to be emphasizing how, once again, Star Wars Expanded Universe changes or enhances that movie-going experience. Really, how it contributes to it. So, in 2003, we started off with a micro-series called Clone Wars by Genndy Tartakovsky, the gentleman behind Samurai Jack, which aired on Cartoon Network from 2003 to 2004. So the final episode is pretty much the beginning of episode 3. So in other words, the final episode of Clone Wars introduces episode 3 in the most genius way for a series. Mind-blowing for sure. We see a lot of what the characters went through, their growth. Even though it's a small series, there was a lot that consisted of that series. A lot of important milestones in the storyline for sure. With that series on television, we also got these little books, these little comics from Dark Horse that were inspired or reflecting the artwork of that micro series by Genndy Tartakovsky, which were 10 issues and really focused obviously on Clone Wars and different things that were happening and adventures that that our characters were going through, and these new characters that we fell in love with as well. Also on the so there was a lot of things going on between Attack of the Clones 2002 to 2005. So the hype was humongous for episode 3. But thanks to Star Wars Legends, Star Wars Expanded Universe, that kept us busy because we were getting so much material. And we had games by LucasArts. We had Del Rey novels. We had Dark Horse comics. So much to entertain us. So by the time we saw episode 3, we understood the characters more. Those of us who read the novels and read the comics, especially the well, I don't want to say especially the comics, because I feel the comics are equally important to the overall storyline as the novels. Just so much happened in the comics. So much. As well as the novels, but that artwork that Dark Horse put out, amazing for sure. So by issue, well, first of all, Dark Horse was releasing a series called Star Wars, which introduced characters from episode 1. But by issue 49, they changed their name from Star Wars to Star Wars Republic. And that's one of my favorite eras in comics because that's when we saw more of Quinlan Vos, we saw Aayla Secura, we saw battles during the Clone Wars. And it really got gritty as well with some of the things that the characters went through, what Obi-Wan went through, what Anakin went through. So much was covered up to the episode 3, the release of episode 3 in the comics. So much was covered that when we saw episode 3 once again, we felt for these characters. And lines in the film referenced things that happened in the novels and comics. So it's just amazing stuff for sure. And that comic went up to issue 83, and pretty much a heartbreaking time for sure, of what happened to so many different characters that we loved. In the novel side of things, Del Rey side of things, they had just wrapped up that massive space opera of New Jedi Order with Unifying Force, the 19th book, and that wrapped up in 2000 and 2003, I believe. They finished that. Yeah, they completed it in 2003. So then they were focused on you could tell that everything was calculated of release dates and what they wanted to tell, what they wanted to focus on. They, meaning Lucasfilm Story Group, of expanded universe material. And they wanted to get into filling that gap between episode 2 and episode 3. So once again, how Star Wars Legends enhances is that, yes, we had to wait 3 years, but we had a lot of things a lot of Star Wars material to enjoy and to really savor and to really get into. So yes, they wrapped up NJO and they focused on novels. So they released a series of novels that had the title of the novel, and then it had a Clone Wars novel. And they all had pretty much the same font. So whatever book was being released, it had, for example, Shatterpoint, a Clone Wars novel. Seth's Deception, a Clone Wars novel. MedStar 1 and 2, a Clone Wars novel. Yoda Dark Rendezvous, a Clone Wars novel. Jedi Trial, a Clone Wars novel. So all these, and those specifically that I just mentioned, are amazing. And I feel that Clone Wars multimedia campaign really deserves a highlight on itself, a separate video, which there's so many different videos online that people do amazing job really focusing on this era. But yeah, I'd like to do that one day, but I feel it deserves a video on its own. But in how the Star Wars Legends Expanded Universe enhances episode 3, I have to mention Clone Wars. Not the Dave Filoni 2008. I'm talking about the Genndy Tartakovsky and the Del Rey and Dark Horse Clone Wars multimedia campaign, and even LucasArts campaign that they had planned and were being released up to episode 3 in 2005. That's what I'm focusing on and highlighting. So yeah, there was so many things that we were getting thrown at and we were enjoying and consuming, and truly those novels, like I said, Shatterpoint, Seth's Deception, Yoda Dark Rendezvous, Jedi Trial, we see a lot. We get in our characters' heads. We really see what they go through. These gritty stories and heartbreaking at times as well. Also, in the novel side of things, there's a novel called Labyrinth of Evil, which is the first that unofficial or official Dark Lord trilogy. So that's the first one, Labyrinth of Evil, and how it takes place immediately before episode 3. Also, one novel that enhances, even though it was released months later, I believe in November of that same year, 2005, Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader. So we saw episode 3. We saw how it finished off in this epic way. That last scene with Tarkin and Darth Vader overlooking everything, overlooking space, and that was the last scene of Darth Vader in that series in films. And it continues on. It continues on, and you really get into Anakin's head. Heartbreaking stuff for sure, which is essential. I feel all these stories are essential to enjoying episode 3 even more, because you'll see how much our characters went through. And I think that I say essential because I really feel it is. Does a fan casual fan need to read all these Legends material? No, because George Lucas pretty much put everything self-explanatory, everything right. He explained things well in the story. But on the Star Wars Legends side of things, we really got much, much more. So much things to enjoy. And in the LucasArts games, there was that's part of Star Wars Legends. We have this game called Clone Wars. That one thing that blew my mind playing it, which was unexpected, was a scene of Anakin seeing this hologram of, I vaguely remember, of Ulic Qel-Droma, this character that I read about in Tales of the Jedi that I loved. And seeing him, wow, this is amazing continuity. Amazing continuity for sure. So, do I recommend Star Wars Legends Expanded Universe during this timeline of Episode 3? Before and immediately after? Definitely. Also, one thing I do not want to forget to say is the novelization by Matthew Stover, famous among EU fans, among Legends fans, right? Definitely belongs on a Star Wars Legends bookshelf. Why? One of the best Star Wars books ever written, I feel. However, it references EU, other EU books, other EU events that were only in comics and in novels. So that's why I say that that is definitely hands down an EU Legends book, the novelization. So much that the EU has given us, so much that has that we get to enjoy, so many, I feel, so many things that highlight and reference Episode 3 or leading up to Episode 3. You see things coming, you know what's going to happen, but it's really fleshed out well, guys. I am not even exaggerating. This, the way Star Wars Legends enhances the films is just, I love this storyline so much because of the continuity. And people may argue, well, it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. What is perfect? Nothing. But I feel we really should appreciate somebody's art. And Lucasfilm and this story group and these novels and these games and these EU comics, perfect? No, what is? But they really, really, truly make the movie going experience better, I feel. Because this is just this amazing story arc overall that if you really want to get into a character's head more than what a 2-hour, 3-hour movie can give us, the books, the comics, definitely. It's a must for sure. So hope you enjoyed this this set of videos of how Star Wars Legends enhances the prequels, because it truly does.